Today I want to talk to you about fiber. Fiber is really important to prevent constipation and to keep the consistency of your stools normal. So I'm going to start by showing you guys something called the Bristol stool chart. And so you can look this up online. I have it printed out for you. And so I'm going to show you 7 different types of stool here. So starting at the top, we have type 1, that's constipation. You're probably going to be straining a lot. You're going to get little pebbles. Here we have more of a sausage shape. It's really the clumps kind of coming together. Here we have a sausage shape with some cracks in it. Type 4 is what we consider ideal or normal stool. That's a snake-like sausage, smooth, easy to pass. And then as we get higher, we start to get less solid stools. So type 5, 6, and 7 are looser stools. Type 7 is basically liquid stool or diarrhea. And so with different types of fiber, there are 2 categories of fiber. And dietary fiber is considered a carbohydrate. So if you look on your nutrition label, you'll find the total carbohydrates. You'll find it broken down into categories of sugar, added sugar, and dietary fiber will be on there. So technically you're pooping out the dietary fiber. So we have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber is going to soften your stool. So for example, if we look at the Bristol stool chart and you have types, let's say 1, 2, or 3, you might want to consider increasing the amount of soluble fiber in your diet. On the other hand, if you have some looser stools, type 5, 6, or 7, then you might want to increase your insoluble fiber, which is going to bulk up your stool. And so one of the common tips that I give my clients is when you're eating your fiber, you want to distribute it out throughout the day. If you're new to eating fiber, then you want to make sure that you kind of ease into it because it can create some uncomfortable bloating or gas. Usually a really easy way to eliminate that or reduce that from happening is to just make sure you're drinking plenty of water. So water intake is another thing that's very important for constipation because essentially the longer your stool sits in your colon before it enters your rectum to be evacuated, it's absorbing water. That's the main job of the colon. So the longer your stool is sitting in your colon, the drier and the harder your stool is going to get. So it's important to regularly go to the bathroom and, everybody's regular is different, but typically 1 to 3 times a day to every 3 days is considered normal. So when I work with somebody, the first 3 things I ask them is how much water are you drinking? And we track the water intake if we need to make sure that they're drinking as much as they think they are. How frequently are you going? And what is the consistency of your stool on the Bristol stool chart? So if their stool consistency is good, then maybe I'm not concerned about their dietary fiber intake or their fluid intake. But then we want to look at defecation behaviors. So things like, are they elevating their feet? Are they straining? What are their breathing patterns? And those are all the things that we work on. So I just want to give some examples of so for example, soluble fiber, we have oatmeal, chia seeds, nuts, lentils, apples, blueberries. On the other hand, insoluble fiber, that's going to be things like whole wheat products, brown rice, quinoa, kale, almonds. So you can look up fiber supplements. You can look up. So soluble fiber dissolves in water and it can help maintain stable blood sugar levels. And insoluble fiber does not get dissolved in water. So it helps move through your digestive system and it kind of like cleans out the inside of your intestines. So those are the 2 main differences. In general, I mean, there's specific recommendations for your gender, your age, but in general, 25 to 38 grams per day is what's recommended. And like I said, distributing that evenly throughout the day to make sure that you have less abdominal discomfort. The other thing that I want to talk about is constipation during pregnancy, which is very common. Hemorrhoids, very common during pregnancy. If you have hemorrhoids, that means really take a look at either the consistency of your stool that's too hard, that's hard to pass, or the breathing mechanics and your strategies during defecation. So, in general, when you're peeing, when you're pooping, and when you're delivering a baby, you want to relax your pelvic floor muscles, which means relaxing the muscles as opposed to bearing down and holding the breath, which is called the Valsalva maneuver, which is going to engage the pelvic floor muscles, and then you're going to try to be pushing against a closed hole. So learning how to relax those muscles and using the breath to help you do that is going to be helpful. But anyways, during pregnancy, there's a lot of different factors that are kind of putting you at risk for constipation. So number one is the amount of fluid that you're taking in is needs to be a lot greater during pregnancy because you're growing a human. Your activity level typically decreases, and physical activity is really good for regular bowel movements. There's also an increase in iron intake, and then you also have an increase in progesterone. So all of those things are going to increase constipation. So definitely during pregnancy, you want to make sure that you're using the correct breathing mechanics, you're getting enough fluids, and you're eating enough fiber and moving as much as you can in order to help reduce constipation. I guess that's it. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want more information on constipation, fiber, the Bristol stool chart.